In this video, we're going to be taking a look at another sedge, and we're going to be taking a look at another identification key in doing this. Here's the sedge we're going to be looking at today. If you've looked much at sedges, you can look at this and right away you know what genus it's in. Coincidentally, it's pretty easy to get to this genus in the key for the sedges because, for example, using the Godfrey and Wooten key, which I have right over here. Again, Godfrey and Wooten, southeastern vascular plants, aquatic and wetland plants of the southeastern United States. So you go into the sedge family, and again, you have to get to the point in the key where you figure out, oh, okay, this is a sedge, it's in the Squarosa. And when you get here, the very first character in this is the achene is born within a sac. And the sac is called the perigenium, all right, which is closed except for a terminal orifice through which the style or the stigma protrudes. All right, so the achene is inside a sac. Well, if it's inside the sac, it would be in the genus Carex. In the case of this plant, it's inside a sac, which puts us in the genus Carex. I want to show you here, have some of these pulled up on the camera, the microscope camera here. And okay, so there you can see them. I don't know, you can't really necessarily tell from looking at this that they're in a sac, but they are. So what I can do is I'm going to take this little cluster of fruit here, the spikelet. I'm going to take this off of here, move it to the side, and there you can see some more of these things. And I'm going to pull them under the scope. I promise I'll focus that in just a second. Anybody's eyes are trying to give them a fit there. So, okay, so there's one of those things that was on that cluster that we just saw. And somehow I'm going to try to dig in here and show you that this is actually in a sac. All right, it's a lot easier when you don't have a camera sitting on top of the scope and you can look through the objectives. But anyway, hopefully I can get in here. Yep, there we go. So right there, I just punched a hole in this little sac all the way through it there. Kind of tear through that. And you know, if things went well, that would flip over for me, which, you know, not going exactly the way I want it to. See if I can grab this on the other end here. I wish I had with me another set of these really fine-tipped tweezers, forceps. I don't, so I'm going to employ something a little more brute force on this. Clamp that little thing down in there. I'm going to switch hands. So this is, again, fun parts of identifying grasses and sedges. All right, so coming back in here, we get in, pull this little sac off. Wow, it does not want to tear, does it? All right, so there we go. You're starting to see the achene inside there. All right. So we pop this thing open, and there you have inside a sac, you have an achene. All right. Sac, that sac is called a perigenium, and the achene right here was enclosed within that sac. All right. And so that makes this not only a sedge, but that puts this in the genus Carex, C-A-R-E-X. Okay, so that's pretty easy. All right, you know, it just happens, however, that from this point forward, maybe not so easy. Let's go back over here. So we know it's in the genus Carex, and this is the new key. So we're not using in this video. We're not going to be using the Godfrey and Wooten southeastern aquatic and wetland plants of southeastern wetlands, or whatever the title is. We're not going to be using the Godfrey and Wooten text. What we're using this time is the Flora of North America. All right. Now, I think I mentioned in another video somewhere that this is a little bit more difficult The reason that it's more difficult is because this deals with the flora of North America, not the flora of the southeastern United States. And because of that, there are a lot more species in here. For example, if we come down here, in the genus Carex, there are about 2,000 species worldwide. There are, I think, something like 6,000 species in the sedge family worldwide. So about a third of the species in the sedge family are in the genus Carex. It's an enormous genus. In North America here, in the region for this flora, there are about 480 species. So there are about almost 500 species in the genus Carex. All right. I don't remember how many there were in the Godfrey and Wooten text. It was absolutely not 500. I want to say 30 or 50, something like that. Not 500. So 500 more species, which means there are a lot more characters, a lot more diversity, a lot more steps to work through. Remember, we're working with dichotomous keys. They have each step, there's a branch. You can go one of two ways. And we have to go through these bifurcating branches to get to 500 species. So it's a lot of steps. So it's a lot more complicated. That being said, it's readily available. You don't have to pay. There's no subscription fee or anything. If you have the internet, you can get the Flora of North America. So it's a lot more accessible to people. It's just a lot more difficult to work through. But anyway, so here are the Carex, and you can read all about the Carex family, and or I'm sorry, the Carex genus within the sedge family, the Squarosa. So you can read all about it. All Carex are perennial species. Kind of an interesting bit of trivia there. The shoots vary greatly in their longevity. In most Carex, only above ground stems are those bearing inflorescences. Because there are some plants that actually they make the flowers and produce the fruit below ground. Peanuts, for example. Let's see. Anyway, so you can read all about that stuff. We just keep scrolling. Oh, by the way, I'm going to go back to the top. www.efloras.org. And I'll put the link in the information on this video. But anyway, efloras.org. So we were scrolling. Lots of information about the lots of species that are in this genus. And so now we get down here, key to these sections of Carex. Okay, so we went from a family to a genus. Now we got to go from a genus to a section. That's how many there are. They have to group them by sections. All right, then we do this. It's two questions at each part of this key. So we go through here. Spike, one per culm. All flowers attached to the main stem and a terminal spike, or spikes 2 or more per culm. All right, so I can pull this over here, our plant collected from the field, and that's not as good a one as I want to use, but you can see this is one stem, one culm, and it has 1, 2, 3 spikes on it, and there was another one that's not on there now. Here's a good one over here that kind of shows. I have to keep backing up. I have old eyeballs. Both of these. So you can see multiple, 1, 2, and then there's one up the top here that looks different from these two. Okay. So the reason this one looks different, I'm going to grab a sheet of paper to make sure. Hold it like this. All right. So there. So you can see as I talk without moving my lips. This one, and then up here, I guess you can see it, is another one. It's really skinny. I'm looking over there, and it's not showing up very well. So you see 2 large ones. I started to say fat. 2 large ones, and then 2, on each one of these, 1 skinny one up at the top. If I can point right there. All right. So that skinny one up there, I'm thinking at some point, and in one of these videos, if you've seen them all, if you haven't seen them, this won't be helpful. I mentioned the quote male, quote female flowers. So the pistillate flowers, the staminate flowers. So what we have here is not a failure to communicate. But what we have here, let's see if I can hold them like this maybe that's more helpful. So these fat ones down here, the larger ones in diameter, are the pistillate. So these will actually be the ones that produce the fruit. And that's where you saw in the microscope a second ago, I pulled that perigenium off and it had the achene, which is the fruit inside there. And then I can move this in here a little bit closer maybe, and I haven't used my camera. So up here, the one up at the top is a staminate spike. So that one produces boys. So the pollen are produced up there. Okay, so this has separate staminate and pistillate spikes. Should have worn a white shirt or something. I don't know. Anyway, that's important, I think, in this key in a minute. But at any rate, I'll just keep that in my hand. We might need that again, as I don't plant parts all over my desk again. I'll have to get the dust buster in here in a minute. Okay, so spike, 1 per culm, or spikes 2 or more per culm. We have 2 or more. Again, numbers up to 5. I'm all over it. 2 or more per culm, some flowers and lateral spikes. That's going to take us to step number 2. And the cool thing about the Flora of North America, you can click on this and it'll hyperlink you to the next step. The not so cool thing about it, when you do that, it puts the next step right up exactly at the top of the window. And so sometimes, well, I don't know about you, I did this earlier when I was working through one of these. I did that and clicked and put it right up at the very top. And so when I started reading it, I started reading it the next step down, because the one was so, I mean, exactly at the top edge of the window that my eyes went to the next one. Again, old eyeballs, old brain, it combined all of that stuff basically into one line, and I went to the one below, which took me to the wrong place. So I'll try to scroll unless I'm going to go like a super long distance in the key, like from step 1 to step 37 or something. But anyway, 2 or more per culm, we're going to step 2. All right, all flowers staminate, at least some flowers pistillate. We had pistillate, staminate. So at least some pistillate takes us to 3. So we get into 3. Stigmas 2. The achenes flat to biconvex in cross section. All right. And on this one, you don't have to worry necessarily about both of those, because they kind of go together. All right. So it has 2 stigmas. The achenes are going to be either flat or they're going to be convex on each side, biconvex. Or stigmas 2 to 4, mostly 3, the achenes more or less trigonous, triangular in shape. Sometimes terete. Terete is a fancy way the botanists say round, okay, in cross section. All right, so let's go back over here and see if we can see what this looks like. So you see that thing. I don't know how well you can tell from this angle. I mean, you know, sort of if you're just looking at it, you could say, oh, well, it's convex here and convex there. But the problem is that it's in 3 dimensions. This edge right here actually sticks up. It's kind of, maybe kind of spoiled the story for you there. Where are we at? Right there. All right. If I can almost tilt it up, and you can almost kind of sort of see, there you go. I got it up on its edge a little bit. You can kind of see it's triangular in cross section. So it's a trigonous, triangular shaped achene. All right, more or less trigonous. We go to step 4. Step 4, body of the perigenium pubescent, scabrous, hispid, or sometimes papillose. In one of these videos, this is a previous Sedge video, I was talking about scirpus, and I said, like, oh, it's like this insanely fuzzy pine cone, right? Insanely fuzzy is a way that I say that something is maybe hispid or tomentose. I made a whole list of the terms. There actually were 15 terms in the glossary of the Godfrey and Wooten. Comose, pubescent, plumose, puberulent, lanate, hirsute, floccose. Okay, there's just lots of fancy botanical words for hairy. All right, but they're actually, the weird thing is they're multiple. So it's pubescent means hairy, hispid means hairy, papillose means hairy. They're different kinds, I guess, of hairiness, but they all, I mean, it all means hairy. So anyway, the body of the perigenium, the sac, is hairy. You just say that. I don't know. Or the body of the perigenium, that sac is not hairy. Or it may have these papillae type hairs, which are more, papillae are more like little kind of, I don't know, I think of sort of like nubs, but they, I mean, they're kind of a hair, but like little nubs. Here they would be not longer than wide, so they'd be little fat kind of nubs on the surface, or just glabrous, just smooth, or insanely hairy. Let's go back over here and look. Perigenia. So here's a perigenium here. Maybe I need to adjust the lighting or something. I don't know, but let's see. We get a little more exposure. I have to make the sound effects. I don't know. Maybe that helped a little bit. Maybe it didn't. At any rate, do you see hairs on that? I don't. Where's... You're like, well, Dr. Irvin, if you don't see any hairs, do we have to just keep messing around? Of course we do. There, look in there. Do you see any hair? These are not hairy. Okay. They are glabrous. They are wow. They are apubescent. Ahispid. I don't know if that's a word. But anyway, okay, so they're not. Puts us in 5. Okay, number 5, which we're in the last one. That's good. They're only 5. That's awesome. Bracts, sheathless or with a sheath less than 4 millimeters, rarely longer. Or the bracts with a sheath 4 meters long, 4 meters, 4 millimeters long or longer, but the sheath is longer than the diameter of the stem. Okay, so bracts, they're not those little scales that are below the achene, so those are scales. So the bracts are actually these things. So earlier I thought I was looking at a spike, one of the staminate spikes, but I wasn't. I was looking at one of these bracts. So I'm going to try to pull, maybe I can go over here to the side like that. If I could pull this thing, I mean, these plants just fight me every step of the way. All right, so that's a bract right there. It's below where the inflorescence comes out. Try to put this where, there you go, I think you can see that. So you have the inflorescence, and then you have the culm coming up here, and then you have these bracts coming off. Well, the bracts down below here, at the point, from the point where it attaches to the culm, or I guess departs from the culm, down, and then if you get up close to it, you can see, if you were here, or if I wanted to stick it under the microscope, what you would see is you come down, so the bract comes in, here's where it departs from the culm, and between here and down, and you can, on this one, you can feel there's a joint down here. All right. Okay, so even without, I hope, even without having the practice that I have of just measuring things and being able to look under there and say, oh yeah, that thing looks like it's about a millimeter and a half long, I think you can look at that, I hope, and tell that that is at least 4 millimeters long. All right. And in that case, then that's going to put us here going to key F. All right. Key F. I keep dropping carrots fruit on my desk. No additional charge for the entertainment, the song there. Key F. All right, so cool thing. You click key F, and we go to key F of the carex. All right, so again, we're in carex here. Key F, all right, well, guess what? There's more stuff to read here about carex. Actually, I think that it looks like that's the same stuff to read about carex. Probably took us back to the same page. We're just going to, like an infinite loop. It'll be like me trying to key out of grass again. Horrible. Oh, no, there we go. Key F. So we're in key F. And you see here, step 1. And we're going to like check this out. Step 1. Wow, this is going to be a lot of fun, right? Still not to the bottom. 62. So potentially 62 steps. 62 yes or no questions to get us to, another spoiler here, to get us into another section. Well, anyway, all right, so key F. Okay, the apex of the Perigenium beak terminated by two teeth, mostly at least half a millimeter long, or there are no teeth, or if they are teeth, they're little tiny short things less than half a millimeter. The beak of the Perigenium. All right, so, oh, check it out. Maybe I can just do this with my little Mickey Mouse hand. See that right there? Okay, so there's the Perigenium, and this one's even cool too, because you can see the sac is open, and you can see down inside there the looks like probably the style on the top of the achene down inside the Perigenium. Pretty cool. But you come up, and then here is the beak, and it has a couple of teeth on the tip of it. All right. We look at some others. Some of them don't. And there, I'll tell you, some of them do, some of them don't have the little teeth. But those teeth, I don't know if I'm going to be able to sneak a ruler down in there. I'll try. Maybe I can kind of slide it in over here. I just don't want to touch that. Not that it's creepy or gross or anything, but I don't want to bump it out of the way. Okay, I want you to look. These marks, the distance between those, that's 1 millimeter. Okay, let's see if I can back it up. All right, you see how long this is? Half a millimeter it's like 2 of these Mickey Mouse hands, and that's barely even 1. All right, so it's less than, see that? I knocked it over. Apex of the brain, its entire margin, or with teeth that are mostly less than half a millimeter. That is the case. And this is one where we're going to go down to step 17 and see it shoved it way up at the top. So I'm going to scroll up a little bit. 17, leaf blades variously hairy. And they just said hairy here. It wasn't like pilose or comose or puberulent or anything. It's just variously hairy. Maybe it's because it's variously. It could have been like 13 of those 15 terms. But anyway, they're either hairy or not. Glabrous. Glabrous means not hairy. All right. I don't think there are as many ways to say not hairy as there are hairy for whatever reason. I think because there are lots of different types of hairs and amounts, etc. you can have. But anyway, the leaf blades, are they hairy or no? All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead, break my own rule, and I'm going to move this thing out of the way. Can't see it right now, but I moved it out of the way. And I'm going to put this leaf blade on here for 2 reasons. Because we're going to need to look at it again in a minute. And because we need to look at it now. Those are the 2 reasons. Kind of did it backwards, I guess. I don't know. I was assuming you got the second one you knew. We were going to have to look at it now. Which I guess really is the first one. See, I don't know. Digressing again. Alright, so I'm going to put this under here. And maybe it is in a spot where we can see it. We'll go back to the microscope. Oh yeah, there you can see it. That's really cool because, well, sort of. All right, so you look at that. Do you see any hairs? There are no hairs. It's not hairy. It's glabrous. All right, so another thing that I wanted to be able to show you with this is, because we're going to come to this in a second, or a minute. 15 minutes the way I go. So there's a ridge here and a ridge here, and then there's a valley in the middle. If I can kind of tilt this around, kind of see that a little bit 3-dimensionally. Tell you what I'm going to do. You know what I need? I'm not asking for donations. I'm just telling me that I need. Once upon a time I had a few pairs of little tiny scissors. I think they were fly tying scissors. I don't know where any of them are. So what I need to get myself probably 3 sets of tiny little fly tying scissors. 3 because, you know, the way the saying goes, 1 is none. If there's something you need to do a job, if you have 1, basically you have none. Something's going to happen. You're going to lose it, break it, whatever. Somebody will steal it. So 1 is none. And 2 is 1. And I guess basically you just go on like whatever, 5 is 6. Wait, 6 is 5, I guess. See, I got numbers above 5, so I had problems. Anyway, I want to get 3, so that way I have I can take one of the three and store them away. So then I have two, which means I really have one. No, you only need one. So I need three. And then some more of these fine-tipped forceps would be awesome. Again, I'm not asking for donations. I'm just trying to make a mental note so that, but if, you know, I'm going to start a GoFundMe to buy me scissors and forceps. That would be nice too. But anyway, all right, check that out. All right. I did that with big fat scissors. Not really big fat. There's like normal size scissors, not kindergarten scissors or anything. But anyway, so why is that important? We'll find out in a minute. But again, you check that out. There are no hairs, right? So it's glabrous. 17. Leaves hairy, glabrous. They are glabrous. So we're going to 21, which is here. All right. The bracts without blades. Remember we looked at the bract to see that sheath, and they had blades. So that's cool. We can kind of almost skip this. The bracts with a distinct blade. Yes, we're going to 23. 23. Now you see why I did that. The young leaves V-shaped or rounded, or are the leaf blades M-shaped in cross-section? Oh my gosh. That's like a sort of a Wonder Woman W style V, isn't it? This is M-shaped. All right. So if these were still attached down at the base of the blade, so they're attached down there and they're M-shaped, or sometimes it flattens out, but this is not a V. So V-shape would be like just that, not with the little thing sticking off to the side. Okay. Sure, Dr. Irvin, whatever you say. So leaf blades M-shaped in cross-section, and that's going to take us to 40. Go way to the top, so let's crank it back down. All right, here are these beaks again on the Perigenium. We already did that. Okay, Perigenium beakless, or with a tiny little bitty tiny short beak. Remember, 0.5 millimeter was pretty small. Beakless, or with a beak like this, or less, entire, or with 2 apical teeth. Or Perigenium with a distinct beak more than 0.5 millimeter. Usually with apical teeth of 0.1 millimeters or greater. Well, I think we're going with this 51 here. Sorry about that. Turn off my phone over here. I don't know what's going on. It's not nearly as important as figuring out what species of carex this is, though. Definitely has a distinct beak. So let's go down to 51. And I'll know in a second if I went to the right place or not. I think I went to the right place. 51. All right, so the Perigenia, 51 here. So the and another cool thing. Forgot to mention this. So we came to 51, right? So if I get in here and I look at these and I'm like, whoa, that doesn't look right. I think I screwed up. I mean, I think I messed up. You can click on this 40 and that takes you right back where you just came from. So that's kind of cool. You can't do that in one of these things. All right, you have to actually remember where you came from. It's still it's a good resource. Paper books. But you can't just click on something and go back. So all right. Perigenia with 2 distinct marginal veins, otherwise veinless, or with very weak veins proximally. Okay. Or the Perigenia with more than 2 veins, extending most of the length of the bodies. All right, let's go over here and look at these Perigenia again. So you keep stuff at the microscope because you're going to have to come back to it again later. I'm trying to figure out how I had it on here before, because you could see this when I had this sitting over here before. You could see the answer to this question a minute ago. All right. Check. Oh, yeah, there we go. Beautiful. Right here on this one. And you can kind of see a little bit on this, a little on that one, this one down here, but definitely on this one right here. Those light colored lines, that's those veins they're talking about. Count how many we got. 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's more than 2. All right. I love this. Counting things that are 5 or fewer. Perigenia with more than 2 veins extending most of the length of the bodies. That's it. We go to 55. So we come down to 55. All right. The pistillate scales with narrow, indistinct bodies scarcely enlarged at the base, or pistillate scales with wide, flat bodies, sometimes terminating in awns. All right. Pistillate scales. Oh, I think we can do that with this one also. So what I can do is I can grab this, because this really, one cool thing about this particular species is those scales actually hang out on the spike when you remove them. All over here, look at those. So remember, this is the larger, fatter spikes, where the pistollate's got spikes that produce the fruit. So that's one we're looking at. And a really cool little thing that this one did for us is it hung on to all of these pistillate scales. All right, so for each one of these things, there would have been an achene sitting above it. So each one of these achenes, likewise, has a scale below it, like right there. See that scale, and then an achene right here. All right. Every single one of these has this long, skinny thing. All right, so they're not sometimes awns. These things have awns all the time. And they also note that these awns stick out well past the perigenia, okay, and make the whole thing look kind of cockleburrish. All right. And then also you look at these, and they're pretty doggone skinny. There are none of these things that I would say, oh yeah, for sure, that's wide. What the terminology they used over here? Yeah, wide, flat bodies, sometimes terminating in awns. No, these things are pretty skinny. Every single one of them has an awn because they're almost all on. They're almost all on. They're still on. The awns are on the scales that are on. Anyway, I enjoy playing with words too much sometimes. Oh, and then sometimes I forget. What was it we were doing? Oh, yeah. They're skinny. So 55. Pistillate scales with narrow, indistinct bodies scarcely enlarged at the bases says that we need to go to section Squarosa. We're going to click on it and see. And then one of my favorite things. There are only 4 species over here. Nice. 3 two-way questions, 4 species. This is odd. This is maybe my favorite section of the Carex. I haven't looked at enough of them to know. They may all look like that. I don't know. Anyway, all right. So we're in section Squarosa, which is kind of cool. The plants Cespitose, which is like like a really tight clump, or colonial with short to long rhizomes. Oh, speaking of that. Okay, so, all right, yeah, right there is pretty good. Okay, so here you would have one of the plants that may or may not at some point have produced a culm growing up out of the middle of these blades here. I have a little picture over here that I'm looking at. So I'm looking at over there. And then at the bottom are these below ground stems. And over here is where another shoot, actually 2 of them, were trying to grow up out of the soil, and then somebody came along and abducted the whole thing. Brought it in, for the edification of the masses though. But this stem that's connecting these down here, that is a below ground stem. It's called a rhizome. All right. What's this say about rhizomes in this group? Short to long rhizomatous. Okay, so in other words, it's rhizomatous. As it produces this rhizome, we got some rhizome on there. That doesn't mean like, oh yeah, we got it right or anything. It just means that there's an example of a rhizome. Anyway, so a bunch of other descriptions about these, but let's go down here. Species 4 in the Flora of North America, temperate regions of East and Mid-Western North America, and temperate South America. That's kind of interesting. And I was in Eastern North America when I found this, by the way. Okay, terminal spike, largely staminate. Do you remember? So we had the little kind of larger fat ones down here that were pistillate. And then there was that skinny one at the top that was staminate. Right. Okay, so terminal spike, largely staminate. Excellent. All right. Pistillate scales with long awns, exceeding the Perigenia bodies. And the achenes, 1.2 to 2.1 millimeters. I don't know if you noticed earlier when I was talking about measuring things, and I said, that I can just look over there and I can tell you that that thing is about 1.5 millimeters long. So they're in this range of lengths, and that's going to take us to number 2. So we come down to number 2, and we have narrowed it to 2 candidates. So out of almost 500 species in North America, here in only about 30 minutes, 35, I don't know. I say I don't know. It's 30 something. My timer is down below the little toolbar thing, so I can't see, but I think it says that we're around 35 minutes. We've narrowed this from 500 to 2 species. Even with me talking and wandering all over the world, talking about whatever I was talking about. Okay, pistillate scales. So we keep coming back to those pistillate scales. Those ones right there. So we keep coming back to those. They're pretty important for identifying these things, right? And there's so much. For one thing, all right, look at them. I mean, they're kind of cool. They got this dark midrib. They got the little wing things. You can see like little ears at the top of this. This long awn that's almost looks like it's maybe have little teeth on it. And it's pretty cool. They look pretty cool. They're also like that and this don't look anything alike. You can tell the difference between this scale and the Perigenium. It's not like gloom limopalea business with the grasses. Anyway, the advertisement for sedges are better than grasses. Except I don't know that we eat any. We eat rice, corn, wheat, barley, oats. Maybe the grasses are better. What are we doing? Okay, pistillate scales with narrow, indistinct body, 0.1 to 0.4 millimeters wide. Okay. And yeah, and they're pretty narrow. Are they that narrow? 0.5 millimeter wide? Maybe. Staminate scales linear. We didn't pull any of the staminate scales out. They have scales in the staminate spike also. Spreading, plant cespitose, not colonial, blah, blah, blah. It's Carex frankia. The pistillate scales with wider translucent body from 0.4 to 0.9 millimeters wide. Okay. Interesting. So if they're more like 0.5 to 1 millimeter wide with a wide translucent body, and everything else is kind of similar there. We're going to say Carex aureolensis. Aureo, A-U-R, sounds a little bit like ear. And those scales had a little ear-like thing at the top of them. Versus Frankii, which doesn't mention anything about that, and they're super skinny. Let's go over here and see if we can measure one of these things. See what the size is. So I'm going to have to, there was one out, but I'm going to pull 1 or 2 more. Just see, there's one right there. Could measure it, but I don't like just measuring one when I'm doing this stuff, because if I do just one, I've probably picked the wrong one. No way, Dr. Irvin, you picked the wrong one, surely. I wouldn't do that. Surely I would. Okay, I don't know if this will work, how well this is going to work. That one's folded in half. Let's see if I can slide this ruler in here. That out of the way. And so looking at that thing, I bet I can pick that up. Maybe. But I might maybe be able to pick that up and just set it on there. Perhaps. Oh, check that out. Look at that thing trying to be, it's trying to basically fill, if I could steer, if I could drive. Doggone it. So one time I ran a fire truck off a road and broke the handrail off the back of it. Kind of driving like, look at that. I did, no kidding. No, it was a Marine Corps fire truck, not mine. Look at that. That's basically a millimeter wide. The other one's folded in half, but you can put these two side by side. Look, it doesn't want to cooperate. They're really similar in size. So they're in the neighborhood of a millimeter. What did this say over here? Pistol scale, blah, 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 from 0.4 to 0.9 to maybe sometimes a little over 1 millimeter wide. Carex Oreo lenses. Check that out. Let's go look at a picture of it. Illustration. And look, they're going to go up. We don't want to just show it to you. You got to look for it. That's cool because I've already been in here. And check this out. All right, so we got these two. Here's Frankii, Carex Frankii, and check this out. Both the pistolate and the staminate scales look like this. Long and skinny. There are no ears, wings, or anything on there. It does have the two little teeth up here. It's got the veins and everything like we saw in this, but both pistolate and staminate scales look like that. If we come down here, though, this is Carex Oriolensis. This is the male scale, which I didn't pull any of those. We could, but in the interest of time, I'm not going to. But down here is the female, the pistolate scale, and you see the little wide part down here that's a little bit less than half the length of that, and some little ear-like things sticking off the side. And again, we come over here. This is a little bit less than half the length of it. There you can see a little bit of that ear thing sticking up. Pretty confident in that identification. Now, curious and interesting and awesome thing about the Flora of North America here is that the Godfrey and Wooten text does not have Carex Oriolensis in it. It has Carex Frankii. So if you work through the key with the Godfrey and Wooten text, it'll bring you into Carex Frankii, which would be wrong on this because it's Carex Oriolensis. And this is one that Dr. Charles Bryson pointed out to me some number of years ago. Because we were using the Godfrey and Wooten key in my lab, we've been using it. I mean, I've been using it since I was in graduate school. That's what Bob Haynes recommended. That's what we used in his class, and it's a really good book for plants to grow in and around wetlands. But as I mentioned in another video, it's incomplete. Not their fault. It's just the way it is. People find new things. People look at subtle differences, etc. Things get renamed, like the Brachyarea that I keyed out. And one of the things, well, now it's not Brachyarea anymore. It's Uricloa in the Flora of North America here. But anyway, that's one of the reasons I wanted to use the Flora of North America is to point out this important difference. So we keyed it using the Flora of North America. We keyed it out to what it actually is. Using Godfrey and Wooten, you would have come out to the Carex Frankii, which is not what it is. So it's another example of a sedge using Flora of North America key. So here again, in about 40 minutes, we went from potentially one of 480, almost 500 species of Carex, and we narrowed it down to one, till we actually identified it as Carex Oriolensis. I like sedges more than grasses. I'm sorry. At least in this context, in identifying things. They don't have glooms, lemmas, and paleas, and so they make a lot more sense to me. But I encourage you to go out, find a sedge, and see who it is. And more videos later.